When the dead systems spoke back, the patrol shift had started like any other routine sweep through the Outer Rim territories. Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Naval Forces stretched his forearms across the command console of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge, watching the star charts scroll past on the main display. The bridge hummed with the quiet efficiency of a well-trained crew, officers monitoring their stations with the casual attention of soldiers who had seen nothing but empty space for months. Status report, Navigation Officer Kess, Dex called out, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had spent 30 years keeping the peace in these forgotten sectors. All systems, nominal, Commander. We're approaching the Kepler 442 system. 88-12 minutes, Kess replied, her scaled fingers dancing across the holographic interface. Standard patrol route through the dead zone. Dex nodded absently. The dead zone. That's what they called the former human territories now. 2 centuries after the Great Purge had cleansed the galaxy of the human threat. The Galactic Council had deemed it necessary after humanity's violent expansion had threatened the established order. Better to end the problem before it could spread further. Sir, called out Lieutenant Vaughn from the sensor station, his antennae twitching with concern. I'm detecting some unusual energy readings from the Kepler system. Bex turned his attention to the young officer. Define unusual. Quantum fluctuations, sir. Very faint, but they're there. It's almost like... Vaughn paused, checking his readings again. Like active communication arrays. The bridge fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Active communications in a dead system were impossible. The Zephyrian fleet had personally overseen the sterilization of every human world in that sector. Nothing should be transmitting anything. Sensor malfunction, Vex asked, though he knew Vaughn was too thorough to make such a basic mistake. Negative, sir. I've run 3 separate diagnostic cycles. The readings are consistent and getting stronger as we approach. Dex felt the familiar tingle of unease that had kept him alive through dozens of dangerous missions. Alter course. Take us to the source of those transmissions. The Dominion's Edge changed direction smoothly, its advanced engines making the adjustment without any noticeable shift in the ship's artificial gravity. As they drew closer to the Kepler system, the energy readings grew stronger, more complex. Commander Vaughn said, his voice tight with confusion. These aren't random energy bursts. This is structured communication, advanced quantum entanglement. Protocols. That's impossible, muttered Chief Science Officer Ran, moving to look over Vaughn's shoulder at the data. The technology indicated by these readings is beyond anything in our current databases. Even our most advanced systems can't achieve this level of quantum coherence. Dex stood from his command chair, pacing to the main view screen. The Kepler system lay before them, looking exactly as it should, a yellow star surrounded by the rocky debris of worlds that had been reduced to asteroid fields 2 centuries ago. Nothing moved, nothing lived, nothing should be transmitting. Sir Vaughn called out again, his voice cracking slightly. The signal is bouncing between multiple points throughout the system. It's like there's an entire network out there, but our scans show nothing but dead rock. Could someone be using the asteroid fields as camouflage? Vex asked. Not possible, sir. The debris is too scattered. Too small. There's nowhere to hide a ship large enough to generate these kinds of signals. The mystery deepened as they entered. The system proper. The Dominion's Edge moved cautiously through the outer asteroid belt, scanning everything they passed. The energy readings were now so strong that they were interfering with some of the ship's systems. Commander, Communications Officer Zara announced, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm receiving a transmission. It's in human language." Every head on the bridge turned toward her. Human language hadn't been heard in galactic space for over a century. The few surviving humans had been relocated to reservation worlds under strict observation. "Put it through," Dex ordered. The speaker crackled to life, and a clear, confident voice filled the bridge. "Zephyrian vessel, Dominion's Edge. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran vessel Ethereal Dawn. You are trespassing in sovereign human space. State your intentions." The silence that followed was deafening. Several officers exchanged glances, their expressions ranging from confusion to outright fear. Dex felt his heart skip a beat. Sovereign human space. There was no such thing. Had been no such thing for 200 years. "This is Commander Vex of the Zephyrian Naval Forces," he replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "There are no human territories in this system. This space was sterilized by order of the Galactic Council." A sound came through the speakers that took Vex a moment to recognize. Laughter, not bitter or angry, but genuinely amused. "Commander Vex," the human voice said, "I think you'll find that reports of our extinction have been greatly exaggerated." Before Dex could respond, every alarm on the bridge began screaming at once. The main view screen lit up with proximity alerts as something massive materialized directly in front of them. Not approached from a distance, not decloaked, materialized from nothing, as if it had stepped out of another dimension. The ship that hung before them defied every principle of naval architecture in the galactic database. It was sleek where most ships were bulky, curved where they were angular, and seemed to shimmer slightly as if not entirely solid. Most disturbing of all, it casts no shadow despite being clearly illuminated by the system's star. "Impossible," breathed Chief Engineer Tan. "There's no way a ship that size could have been hiding in this system. Our sensors would have detected it." "Your sensors," came Captain Chen's voice, "are looking in the wrong dimensions." The implications of that statement hit the bridge crew like a physical blow. Dimensional technology was theoretical at best, something that existed only in the realm of advanced physics papers and laboratory experiments. The energy requirements alone should have made it impossible for anything smaller than a small moon. "How?" Dex asked, the question escaping before he could stop it. 200 years is a long time, Commander. A lot can happen when you're motivated by survival and driven by the memory of genocide. The human ship moved then, and Dex's understanding of physics took another blow. The vessel didn't accelerate or decelerate. It simply changed position instantaneously, appearing at different points around the Dominion's edge faster than the eye could follow. No thruster flares, no energy signatures, no inertial effects visible through the viewports. "This is impossible," Ran whispered, staring at his instruments. "The ship is registering on sensors one moment and gone the next. It's like it's phasing in and out of existence." "Not phasing," corrected Captain Chen, her voice now coming from multiple directions at once as her ship continued its impossible dance around theirs. "We're simply choosing which dimension to exist in at any given moment. A useful skill we developed while hiding from your genocidal fleets." Vex felt sweat beading on his forehead despite the bridge's climate control. "What do you want?" Chun's voice carried a note of dark amusement. "We want what was taken from us, Commander. We want recognition. We want reparations. We want the galaxy to remember that humanity never surrendered, never died, never stopped preparing for this moment." "You're one ship," Vex said, though even as he spoke the words, he knew they were wrong. Am I? The space around the Dominion's edge suddenly filled with ships. Dozens of them, all sharing the same impossible design principles as the ethereal dawn, all phasing in and out of visibility like ghosts made solid. Each one was different in size and configuration, but all shared that same otherworldly quality that made them seem not quite real. The Phantom Fleet, Chen announced, her voice now coming from everywhere at once. 200 years of hiding, building, preparing. 200 years of watching the galaxy that tried to murder us celebrate our extinction. 200 years of planning our return. Dex stared at the display showing the human ships surrounding his vessel. His tactical officer was frantically trying to get weapon locks, but the targeting system couldn't maintain contact with ships that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Sir Vaughn said quietly, "I'm detecting more ships throughout the system, hundreds of them. They're all using the same dimensional phasing technology." "The asteroid fields," Ran said suddenly. "They're not hiding in the asteroids. They're using them as dimensional anchor points. They've turned the entire system into a base that exists partially in our dimension and partially in others." Ship moved closer to the Dominion's edge, close enough that Dex could see details of its whole construction. The metal seemed to flow and shift, as if the ship was constantly rebuilding itself at a molecular level. "Impressive, isn't it?" Chen said. "We learned a lot about survival during those first few decades in hiding. When you're being hunted by an entire galaxy, you either adapt or die. We chose adaptation. The Galactic Council will never accept this," Dex said, though he was beginning to understand that the Council might not have a choice. "The Galactic Council," Chen replied, "will accept whatever we choose to give them. You see, Commander, we've been watching, we've been learning. We know every fleet position, every defensive installation, every weakness in your precious galactic civilization. We've had 2 centuries to study our enemies while remaining invisible to them." The truth of the situation began to sink in. The humans hadn't just survived, they had thrived. They had developed technology that made them effectively untouchable, turned their extinction into the ultimate camouflage, and spent 2 centuries preparing for a return that no one had seen coming. "What happens now?" Dax asked. "Now," Chen said, "you get to be the messenger. You get to return to the Galactic Council and tell them that humanity has returned. Tell them that the Phantom Fleet remembers every burned world, every murdered colony, every child killed in the name of galactic peace. Tell them that we're ready to discuss terms, and if they refuse," Chun's laughter was cold this time, "then they'll discover what happens when you try to exterminate a species that refuses to. Stay dead. The galaxy's worst nightmare returns." The journey back to Zephyrian Command took 3 days, but it felt like 3 years to Commander Vex. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those impossible ships phasing in and out of existence, heard Captain Chen's voice promising consequences for crimes committed 2 centuries ago. The Dominion's edge had been allowed to leave the Kepler system without interference, but Dex knew it was only because the humans wanted their message delivered. "Commander, Communications Officer Zara announced as they approached the home system, we're receiving priority transmission from Fleet Admiral Core. He's demanding an immediate briefing." Vex nodded grimly. "Put him through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the stern features of Fleet Admiral Core, his ceremonial scales polished to a mirror shine. Behind him, Dex could see the command center of the orbital defense station, bustling with activity. Commander Vex, Core began without preamble. Your patrol report has caused quite a stir at command. Please tell me you have more concrete evidence than energy readings and audio recordings. I have visual confirmation. Admiral, the humans are real, their ships are real, and their technology is far beyond anything in our databases. Core's expression darkened. Impossible. The human extinction was verified by multiple independent sources. There are no surviving human military assets. With respect, Admiral, I saw them with my own eyes. They've developed some kind of dimensional technology that allows them to exist partially outside normal space. They've been hiding in plain sight for 2 centuries. Dimensional technology is theoretical at best, Commander. The energy requirements alone, would Admiral Dex interrupted. I'm transmitting the full sensor logs now. The data speaks for itself. Core fell silent as he reviewed the information, his expression growing more troubled with each passing moment. Finally, he looked up from his display. If this is accurate, we have a problem. A very serious problem. The humans are requesting formal recognition and reparations for the genocide, Dex reported. They claim to have been observing galactic civilization while preparing for their return. Their return, Core repeated, his voice heavy with dread. How many ships did you actually see? Dozens in the immediate area, but my science officer detected hundreds more throughout the system. Admiral, they've turned the entire Kepler system into some kind of dimensional fortress. They could have thousands of ships hidden in those phase dimensions. Core stood from his chair, pacing to the strategic display behind him. This changes everything. If the humans have truly developed dimensional technology, our entire defensive doctrine is obsolete. How do you fight an enemy that can exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously? I don't think we do, Admiral. I think we negotiate. Negotiate? Core's voice rose. With the species that was deemed too dangerous to exist. Commander, the humans were exterminated precisely because they refused to accept limitations. They were expanding too rapidly, developing military technology too quickly, inspiring other species to resist Council authority. If they've had 2 centuries to advance their capabilities. Dex understood the Admiral's fear. The humans had been eliminated not because they were evil, but because they were dangerous. They thought differently, fought differently, refused to accept the established order of things. And now they were back, more advanced than ever. Admiral Vex said carefully, I recommend we alert the full council. This isn't just a Zephyrian problem anymore. Already done. An emergency session has been called for tomorrow. Every member, species will be represented. The transmission ended, leaving Vex alone with his thoughts. He reviewed the encounter again, analyzing every detail. The humans had been polite, professional, even slightly amused by the situation. They hadn't threatened violence or made demands for immediate surrender. Instead, they had simply demonstrated their capabilities and asked for recognition. But there had been something else in Captain Chen's voice, something that chilled Dex to his core. Patience. The humans had waited 2 centuries for this moment, and they were prepared to wait longer if necessary. They had all the time in the galaxy, hidden in dimensions that no one else could reach. The next day, Dex found himself standing before the full Galactic Council, the assembled representatives of 47 species listening in stunned silence. As he recounted his encounter with the Phantom Fleet, the chamber, normally filled with the sounds of debate and discussion, was eerily quiet. These claims are preposterous, declared Ambassador Vex of the Andromedian Empire. The humans were primitive, violent, and ultimately weak. They could never have developed such advanced technology. The sensor logs are clear, replied Councillor Mirren of the Tau Ceti Collective. The energy signatures are unlike anything in our databases. If the humans have truly mastered dimensional manipulation, then we have created our own worst nightmare, finished High Councillor Zareth, the ancient Altarian who had served on the Council for over 3 centuries. I was present during the original debates about the human problem. Even then, there were those who warned against extermination. They said the humans were too adaptable, too resourceful to be completely eliminated. But they were eliminated, insisted Ambassador Vex. The purge was thorough. Every human world was sterilized. Every human world in our dimension, corrected Zareth, if they have indeed developed the ability to exist in parallel dimensions. Then our purge may have simply driven them into hiding rather than extinction. The debate continued for hours, with some representatives refusing to believe the evidence, while others grew increasingly fearful of the implications. Finally, High Councillor Zareth called for order. The question before us is not whether the humans have returned, he announced. The evidence is clear. The question is what we do about it. Military action, declared General Kex of the Orion Defense Forces. We eliminated them once. We can do it again. With what? Asked Admiral Kaur, who had been present for the briefing. How do you fight an enemy that can exist in dimensions you cannot reach? How do you target ships that can phase in and out of reality at will? We develop countermeasures, Kex replied. We adapt our technology. In how long? Zareth asked. According to the reports, the humans have had 2 centuries to perfect their dimensional technology. How long would it take us to develop similar capabilities? A decade? A century? And what do we do in the meantime while they remain effectively untouchable? The chamber fell silent again as the full scope of the problem became clear. The humans had not just survived, they had evolved beyond the reach of conventional warfare. They had become something that the galaxy had never faced before. A species that could exist partially outside the normal flow of space and time. There is another consideration, Zareth continued. The humans claim to have been observing us for 2 centuries. If that is true, then they know everything about our current military capabilities, our defensive installations, our strategic weaknesses. They have had time to study us while remaining hidden themselves. Then what do you propose? Asked Ambassador Vex. I propose we listen to what they have to say. The debate that followed was heated, with many representatives arguing for immediate military action despite the tactical impossibility of success. Others suggested ignoring the humans entirely, hoping they would simply return to their dimensional hiding places. But gradually, the weight of evidence and logic began to shift the discussion toward negotiation. Very well, Zareth announced finally. The Council will establish a diplomatic mission to the Kepler system. We will hear the human demands and assess the possibility of peaceful coexistence. And if they refuse to negotiate reasonably, asked. General Kex Zareth's expression was grim. Then we will discover what 2 centuries of planning for revenge has produced. The diplomatic mission was organized within a week. A small fleet of vessels carrying representatives from every major species in the galaxy. Vex was assigned as military liaison, his experience with the Phantom Fleet making him invaluable to the mission. As they approached the Kepler system, the human ships began appearing around them, materializing from dimensional space with the same impossible ease that Vex remembered. But this time, there were more of them. Many more, by the void, whispered. The mission's chief diplomat, Ambassador Trell of the Vegan Confederation. How many ships do they have? Sensors are showing over 300 vessels, reported the fleet's tactical officer, all using the same dimensional phasing technology. Some of them are massive, larger than our biggest dreadnoughts. Captain Chen's voice came through the communication system, as clear and confident as before. "Welcome back, Commander Vex. I see you've brought friends." "Captain Chen," Vex replied, "I present the official diplomatic mission of the Galactic Council. We're here to discuss terms." "Excellent. Please follow the ethereal dawn to the conference facility." What followed was a journey through the transformed Kepler system that left the diplomatic mission speechless. The former asteroid fields had been converted into a massive three-dimensional city, with human installations phasing in and out of multiple dimensions. Ships moved through solid rock as if it were empty space. Buildings existed in overlapping dimensional layers, and the entire system hummed with energy that their senses couldn't fully comprehend. "This is incredible," breathed Dr. Krell, the mission's chief scientist. "They've essentially created a civilization that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The technical achievement alone is staggering." The conference facility was a marvel of engineering that existed partially in normal space and partially in the dimensional layers beyond. As the diplomatic mission was escorted through its halls, they saw clear evidence of the humans' advancement. Technology that seemed to bend the laws of physics, architectural, impossible structures that existed in multiple dimensions at once. And everywhere, the quiet confidence of a species that had not just survived extinction but had used it as motivation to transcend their previous limitations. Captain Chen met them in a conference room that seemed to exist in a space larger than the building that contained it. She was not what Vex had expected, a woman of perhaps 40 standard years, with short dark hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to see through pretense to the truth beneath. "Gentlemen," she said, gesturing to seats around a table that appeared to be made of crystallized space-time. "Welcome to the resurrection of humanity." Ambassador Trell, clearly struggling to maintain diplomatic composure in the face of such impossible technology, cleared his throat. "Captain Chen, the Galactic Council has authorized me to discuss terms for the recognition of human territorial claims and the establishment of formal diplomatic relations." Chen smiled, an expression that somehow managed to be both warm and predatory. "How generous. And what exactly are you prepared to offer in exchange for our agreement not to reclaim our former territories by force?" "The Council is prepared to grant humanity representation on the Council itself, trading rights throughout galactic space, and territorial sovereignty over the Kepler system and 2 other systems of your choosing." "3 systems," Chen repeated, her smile widening. "For a species that once controlled over 200 worlds. How... modest. The Council must consider the concerns of all member species," Trell replied. "The rapid expansion of human territory was one of the factors that led to the original conflict." "The original conflict," Chen said, her tone suddenly cold, "was genocide. Let's not pretend otherwise. The Council didn't seek to limit human expansion. They sought to eliminate humanity entirely." She stood, moving to a wall display that showed the galaxy with human territories marked in red. 237 worlds, 15 billion people, all eliminated in the name of galactic stability. "That was 2 centuries ago," Trell protested. "The current Council had nothing to do with those decisions." "The current Council," Chen replied, "continues to benefit from those decisions. Every trade route that was opened by destroying human colonies, every resource system that was redistributed after human populations were eliminated, every world that was given to other species after its human inhabitants were murdered." She turned back to the diplomatic mission, her expression serious. "The Phantom Fleet doesn't want 3 systems. Ambassador, we want justice. We want reparations. We want the galaxy to acknowledge what was done to us and to ensure it never happens again. What are you demanding? Trell asked. Full restoration of human territory, reparations for the genocide, and most importantly, constitutional changes to the Galactic Council that prevent any species from ever again being voted out of existence. The silence that followed was deafening. Several diplomats began protesting immediately, declaring the demands impossible, outrageous, completely unreasonable. But Chen simply waited, her expression patient. And if the council refuses, Trell asked finally. Chun's smile returned, but this time it was purely predatory. Then we'll take what we want. 2 centuries of preparation, Ambassador. 2 centuries of planning. We know the location of every major installation, every fleet base, every defensive position in the galaxy. We've had time to study every species' weaknesses, every government's vulnerabilities. She gestured to the wall display, which now showed the positions of every major galactic fleet. The Zephyrian home fleet, for instance, 43 ships, all clustered around their primary world. Very impressive in normal space, but they can't fight an enemy they can't see or touch. The display shifted, showing the Andromedian empires, supposedly secret military installations. The Andromedians have been building a super weapon for the past 50 years. Quite advanced, but rather useless against an enemy that can exist in dimensions beyond its targeting range. One by one, she displayed intelligence on every major military force in the galaxy, revealing information that should have been impossible to obtain. The message was clear. The humans had been watching, learning, preparing for this moment for 2 centuries. The choice is yours, Chen said finally. Justice through negotiation or justice through force. But make no mistake, after 200 years of waiting, humanity will have its justice. As the diplomatic mission prepared to leave, carrying Chen's ultimatum back to the Galactic Council, Dex found himself wondering if the galaxy had just witnessed the beginning of a new age of peace or the opening moves of a war that could not be won. The humans had returned from extinction itself, armed with technology that made them effectively untouchable and driven by 2 centuries of patient planning. The galaxy that had once tried to eliminate them would now have to face the consequences of that decision. The Phantom Fleet had emerged from the shadows, and the galaxy would never be the same.